So this is a fairly unusual unboxing or unsleeving or unwrapping or whatever for me. Technically, this is a buddy unboxing of Wavell's War. This is a Europa package, and it is the only thing for Europa, as far as I know, ever produced by Historical Military Simulations, the folks who notoriously wet the bed on the Total War project. Wavell's War is a big package. It includes a way to link to previous Europa games. Depending on the editions that you have, it might be as many as 4 previous Europa games, plus an update kit for one of them, plus a whole set of naval rules, plus a huge thing of the Near East and the Horn of Africa. So let's take a look at what we get in Wavell's War. Now this is an unusual buddy unboxing because I don't know what he paid for this, but I managed to get a pretty good deal on it myself. So mine is actually on its way. So let's take a look. I don't usually do it this way, but there's a big cardboard insert here, so we'll do it this way. We'll take a look at the maps. These are, I would say 17. These are like 17 by 22. That looks about right. They're about the same size as 2 pieces of paper, more or less. No, they're not even that size. So these are the size of the standard Europa box, and they're all individual sheets. That's really pretty awkward for lining these all up on the map. But then again, I'm not convinced that lots of people are going to actually play Wavell's War as such. I think they're more likely to use it for what we're using it for, which is to link Balkan Front, which covers the war in Greece and Albania and Yugoslavia, to War in the Desert, which covers the war in North Africa. So we're going to have a whole bunch of these, and they're going to have, so this particular map is the sort of part of the update kit. This replaces part of the map in Balkan Front. I don't know why they didn't replace the whole thing, because the art style is a little bit different. It's not glaringly different, but it's a little bit different. There's a lot more roads on this map, and you just kind of know that they had intended to redo the whole thing, and as you know, you later came to expect from them, they half-assed it. Here is a graphic terrain key. By the time this was published, which was 2005, there was really not an excuse for not having a comprehensive TEC and terrain key together in color. But once again, HMS, what do you want? Here's the north part of the Red Sea. Here's the Sinai Peninsula here. You're not really getting a good look at that, but then again, this is a map of a lot of area that wasn't really covered. I don't even know where a lot of this is, but it does cover places like Ethiopia. Here is Mombasa's on this map, for example. Here's the Gulf of Aden. And you see there's a lot of these, right? So these blue lines on these represent weather zones, which means we have a really gerrymandered looking weather zone on this map, which I think is amusing. This kind of replaces the Africa Oriental Europa-esque game that appeared in the pages of S&T years and years ago. That covered the Commonwealth campaign in East Africa. Not the Italian campaign in Ethiopia, as I had previously said, at a different scale than is standard for Europa. So this does replace that as well. Boy, you just have to use a lot of patience to set all these map sections up. And even so, it's a lot of map sections too. So here is Khartoum. Here's what I take to be part of the Red Sea, which I might even be right about. Here is some rivers in Africa. And then we have this big cardboard insert to keep the whole thing together in shipping. This was not sold boxed. It was only sold in a sort of Ziploc package. So next, let's take a look at the sort of cover that came with it. And I think inside this is actually nothing. complexity advanced, following, very similar to old GGW Europa stuff. Like the folks in charge of ASL, the people running the show have never felt it was a good idea to really update the look of the thing. And so everything looks very much like GGW published it in the early 80s. I will say the ASL stuff there have been some improvements with the ASL components, but there could still be more color. All right, so here's charts and tables. There's going to be a huge pile of these. Okay, here's the ground war. Here's the air war. Wavell's war contains extensive naval rules, so you're going to get a lot of that. Axis garrisons, political event, allied garrisons, political events, master sequence of play, summary. This is only the summary. Look at the type size on this. Oh my goodness. That is just awesome. And by awesome, I mean I want to cry. Here is allied holding boxes for Gibraltar, North Africa, Malta, Balkans. One of the things that Wavell's War brings into the interface between Western Desert and Balkan front is control of Malta. The Axis really needs to keep Malta suppressed, if nothing else, if not invaded. And if the Commonwealth does not reinforce it, and of course you can't just throw troops in it, you got to supply those troops too, that becomes challenging. Axis breakdowns. Here's the weather. You can see there's a lot of weather zones in Africa. And here's the rather complex game calendar. So all of our different play aids. Plus we have the rule book. Okay, now this is a black and white 88-page rule book on thick but not super duper thick paper. There's going to be virtually, I've looked at this already, of course, since we're playing it. Okay, so here's a example of bad typography. Black text on a sort of medium gray background. A lot of people, if their lighting is not ideal, and it's not in this room right now, are going to have problems reading that and eye strain. And there's quite a bit of it in here as well. And that means something. It might be advanced and optional rules. That's this section here. That might be what that is. It does look like that's the case. This is quite complex. This is probably sort of the zenith of Europa complexity, actually, for a lot of reasons. One is that the density of this rule book, the naval rules, which are very baroque, and also the this is in really nice shape, by the way. I hope mine, when it shows up, is in condition this nice. I'm not sure that it will be. But the size of the map, there's a huge map here. Plus you have this Order of Battle book that's going to be, units are withdrawn over here and they come back into play over here the entire time. This is basically the scenario setups, the Order of Battle, the Order of Arrival, all that stuff is all here. Now, on the other hand, if you want the latest thinking on Order of Battle for, say, Balkan Front or Western Desert, this is where it is. This is not a cheap item. I was pretty happy with the price I ended up paying for it, which was not what my buddy ended up paying for it. So here's errata. Here's some more errata. Counter errata, chart errata. Now there's 3 counter sheets, okay, which I've pulled out for reasons that I'm not going to bore you with, but I had them outside the bag to start with. And what these are basically is a complete new counter set for Balkan Front with new colors and everything. So, for example, here are our Germans and Italians. Here are our Commonwealth. I believe these are Italian colonials, I think. These are the Greeks, and these are the Yugoslavs. Now, I don't know why they didn't make this color palette the Yugoslavs and this color or the Greeks, because it fits with the Greek flag better than the Yugoslav flag, but I was not consulted. So So we do have enough stuff in here to represent the different ranges of Commonwealth intervention in the Balkans. I might be misremembering this, but I think one of these might be Royal Navy, actually. That might not be true. I'm not sure, and it doesn't say. So there's 3 full counter sheets here, which I think are intended to replace the Balkan front counters, but they may include additional counters as well. And then on the front of this, this is the scenario. I don't want to say booklet because it's 28 pages stapled, like just stapled like you'd staple at the office. But it does show you the map layout. So here you have the Balkan front maps. That's a 2-map game. Here you have the War in the Desert maps, which is the 2 Western Desert maps and the 2 Torch maps. Here is the Near East, which is Iraq and places like that. That and Palestine and Jordan in that, and that's actually included in War in the Desert. Originally appeared in the game The Near East. So War in the Desert is a revision and a reissue of 3 old Europa games from GDW. Western Desert, which is the Western Desert campaign. When you think about Rommel and El Alamein and North Africa and all that, it's the Western Desert campaign that you're thinking of. Although Rommel was there in the Torch part of it too. And then Torch is the significantly later American and Commonwealth attack in Tunisia, which Rommel was also involved in. And then the Near East was kind of like an optional add-on to that didn't really have a lot of scenario support, as I recall, in the original issue, but I think there are some scenarios for it that use that map space in War in the Desert, and I'm pretty sure there are here as well. So you could kind of put all this together, and then all those maps that we looked at are all these East Africa maps right here. So all those little, whatever dimensions those are, I don't even know what they ended up being, but that's these maps over here. And those are, more of Egypt, the Horn of Africa, the coast of the Red Sea, that type of area. And then here we have the scenario. I am not going to go through this because the scenarios are not like clearly broken out, I don't think, in this book. By which I mean, if I try to read all the scenarios off, I'm going to miss something. But there are a bunch of scenarios. So you have a variety of different levels at which you can engage with this material. So if you are a Europa completist, you probably already have this. If you are curious about Europa, my recommendation is that this is a product that you should not be particularly vigilantly looking for. Because this is kind of the deepest end of the Europa pool here, right? This is a toolkit with which you can kind of refit 2 previous games in the series. If you are curious about Europa and want to try it out, then Balkan Front, or its original issue called Marita Mercur, is actually a good selection to start out with. As would be Case Wide, as would be First to Fight, as would be Narvik. War in the Desert's kind of big, right? It's a big game and runs for a bunch of money, whereas you can get a Marita Mercur for not too much. I've seen them for under $50 and under $30 in some cases where they're punched. And then maybe you decide you need to get into Wavell's War way later. If you know that you're interested in Europa and you already have War in the Desert and Balkan Front, then maybe you do want this. And this has the Fine Games for Players and Collectors sticker on it, so it looks like it passed through their hands at some point. Like I said, if you have not Western Desert, but if you have War in the Desert and you have Balkan Front, then maybe you do want to look into Wavell's War, because it kind of completes that whole end of World War II in and around the Mediterranean. And if you're really that into Europa, maybe you want it. Now, this is my buddy's. Mine is coming. Don't know when it'll show up. Probably before Christmas. It's an interesting piece. I got a really good price on it. So I, to the point where I didn't feel like I could reasonably say no. And it is a piece that is only going to be harder and harder to get as time goes on. And I don't have to steal my buddy's Balkan Front update kit, because I got my own coming. So, Wavell's War. Hopefully this has been interesting. If so, please do give the video a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to help support Ardwulf's Lair, please do check out the links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. Once again, until next time, thanks again for watching, and happy wargaming.